As a tribute to the developer of this mod, Sebastian, also known as Uruk, I have decided to make a Season 2, making a brand new character and having a all-new adventure and playthrough through the Kalimdor Exiles mod. Kalimdor Exiles is a mod created for the game Conan Exiles. It runs on Unreal Engine 4 for Steam. Now, Conan Exiles is based on the Conan the Barbarian universe. However, this mod takes all of the assets and gameplay and turns it into a World of Warcraft-esque kind of game. You still have all the same core mechanics, however, it is going to take place inside of Central Kalimdor. So, I've already done a playthrough on this. It's not really that good as I did it 2 years ago when I first started this server, but don't worry, I'm much better now at actually speaking and not pausing for 5 to 10 seconds at a time, so you're not going to see a lot of that here. I hope you enjoy this adventure through this Conan Exiles mod of Kalimdor. Now then, as I said before, I did completely start a brand new character, new server, everything. So the old server, the old character, everything from the last season is wiped, gone forever. But that's okay, because there's tons of new stuff on this mod that I haven't seen yet. So having a fresh playthrough to be able to experience and play through all of it is going to be beneficial. So first things first, I set up the server settings and I hit play. What's already brand new off the start is that there's an opening cutscene that's very reminiscent of Orcish cutscene, a fly through Durotar until it reaches the Valley of Trials, where you finally get to create your character. Now, the last time I made a character on this mod, I made it a character that looked and felt more like Grommash, because I thought that was very, cool to be Grommash, especially since I was able to get the Gorehowl weapon. But this time around, I decided to make my own orc character and not play as a pre-existing lore character. Now, I still made a Magyar orc, but just to show you, I am showing you all the different characterizations. You can be an elf, you can be a troll, and you can be an orc. Dwarves, on the other hand, there are other mods in order to create yourself a dwarf, from making a short, stocky little person to even the big, fluffy beard. You can, of course, just be a human, but even then, you can choose all the different hair colors, skin colors, anything you can think of, including other things if you have the IQOL mod like I do, but I turned off nudity for this playthrough, so YouTube doesn't have a hissy fit. Either way, if you wanted to make a purple night elf, you could do so. If you wanted to make a green orc, you could do so. A blue troll, you could do so. I decided to make a Magyar orc. That's just because what I am familiar with, and it helps me stand out more amongst the crowd. As I load in, naturally the first thing I wanted to do is kill a rabbit that I saw nearby. I think I managed to kill like one of them, while I saw two other ones. I tried to kill them, but I noticed that they were not taking any damage. But eventually, after just hitting some random buttons because I completely forgot how to play the game, I realized that I picked them up and caught them. So one of them had a little E by them in their symbol. That means that they are part of the Emberlight mod in order to raise rabbits in a little farm. The other one, however, was not. I believe it is now part of the default game that you can catch them, though I'm not quite too sure on that. Either way, I started my journey. No, not journey as in the video, started my journey as in the journeys system in Exiles. So, with that, it's basically a tutorial form, but as you do it, you can unlock not only a little bit of a boost in your experience, but also some materials that are relevant to the topic of whatever journey that you are starting. So, of course, I am starting with the first one in order to get the boost in items to start off my adventure. And then eventually you'll see me start the one for the Horde, which is actually more specific to this mod. After that, I head into the mine that's right next to the Orcish starting area. Now, there's not much in there except for a portal, though this portal you cannot enter through. It is in fact blocked off, and according to this orc, which right now when you click on him and you talk to him, everything is in German, though you'll see later on there is a way to turn it into English. I just didn't realize it at this moment, but either way, I went back and read it in English, and the lore is that this specific portal is the gateway from the Hyborian era into Kalimdor, which is a in-universe reason of why you will see a lot of Conan Exiles creatures within the Kalimdor setting, even though you will also see just normal World of Warcraft mobs as well. So this portal is going to remain as such, and I don't believe it will become anything in the future. After leaving the cave, I went back to the initial quest giver that's by the bonfire when you first log in. This is where I realized that there is an English tab in the quest text, so by hitting that you can now read everything in English. I also noticed with a lot of things, not everything, but a lot of the things that are in German for this mod, if you scroll down to the bottom of the description, or if it's a readable object, if you go down to the bottom, there will be a second written area that is all in English. Again, not everything is like that, but what little there is helps a lot. So I went back to the initial cave and looted what I could from the chests that I found around, which definitely helped give me a boost, and I talked to the quest giver again in English. This is where I learned the lore. After that, I made my first initial stone tools and weapons and went out into the Valley of Trials, where I ran into a whole bunch of scorpions. I had to kill them all down with my mighty sword. It is only a stone sword and I have no armor on there, so I do have to roll and dodge as much as I can, though with a big heavy swinging sword and with all of the stamina required to do that as well as to dodge, it's not as easy as it seems. But eventually I headed to the entrance of the Valley of Trials, where you get to choose your faction. Now, instead of just Horde and Alliance, you of course have those two, but you also have the Brigands, which means you can partner up with a third faction, which are basically Horde or Alliance characters, primarily ogres and pirates, and basically just others that are out in the world itself. I believe also in the Barrens, as part of the Brigand faction, you have what we know in World of Warcraft as the Dark Horde. You can find basically Blackrock orcs, forest trolls, and the like. Anything you would find in Blackrock Mountain, you would find out in the Barrens. Now, I believe, again, they are part of the Brigand faction, so you can befriend them if you choose that faction, though I'm not entirely sure on that. I do know that the ogres are in fact part of that faction, and the ogres are located in Dustwallow Marsh. The Alliance, of course, are the Alliance and do have some foothold in Kalimdor, such as Northwatch Hold, Theramore, and a few other places that are usually not theirs, but you still have the normal ones from the game. But of course, I'm going to be choosing Horde because this is a Kalimdor map. I am in the Orcish starting zone. I'm making an Orc, and I'm playing in the Horde. But you do not have to do that if you do not wish to. You could be an Orc and play in the Alliance, or you could make an Alliance-ish character and play in the Horde or play in the Brigands. But by choosing one faction, it will mean you are friendly to some and enemies to others. It will also restrict the quests that you can take, because now, unlike the last time I played, there are quests. They are far and few between, but they do exist. Now then, after I chose the Horde faction to be my own, I went to the cave where you normally would find some demons in order to do the last level 5 quests of the Valley of Trials, but instead of demons we have imps. Well, I mean, I guess that's good enough. There are imps in World of Warcraft in this game, but these are Conan Exiles imps. Luckily, these guys are very easy to kill. They just take a couple of hits. The only thing that they have is a very high aggro range, so you can get a bunch of them on you at a time, which is what happens to me right here. You could get a bunch of them on you at a time. You just have to swing wide and take them all down. Now, something I did not notice that was going to happen is that there is an imp king inside of that mine right there. The mine is not expansive, it is literally just the entrance and that is it, but the Imp King itself, I did not expect to be there. Now, I could have sworn that they were harder than what they were here, but this one is very easy to take down in basically no armor and a stone weapon, which is what I have. You just have to do a lot of dodging, rolling, blocking, whatever you do in whatever form of combat you have. Also, make sure to take down the little fucks if they get pulled as well. That will help a lot to get rid of the ads in order to take him on one-on-one. Now, I do unfortunately fail here for the reasons of what I said earlier, that large swings with this weapon use up a lot of stamina, and it basically made it so I was not able to dodge out of the way, and he completely destroyed me. But I ran right back, and I tried a second time. This time, though, I was more conscious of my stamina usage, and the fact that there were no little fucks to annoy me while fighting him, so I had a much easier time taking him on, and was able to defeat him. Now, when I did defeat him, I went into the mine to explore. There were a couple of things to loot that were just laying around, which I'll get to in a second, but there was also iron, so you have somewhere in the starting zone that have iron, so that's actually a great head start if you wanted to settle here and now. I don't, however, so I just grabbed a few to take with me, and I took anything else that I can, including the pick. If you remember, there is a pick quest to get it in the cave in World of Warcraft. The pick is right there, you could pick it up, and then I find out as I'm leaving the Valley of Trial, there is a quest, in fact, to turn in this pick, and by doing so, he'll give it to you for free, and it's equivalent to an iron tier pick. So that was a great start off. I don't even have to use a stone pick anymore. I can use the iron pick. That's beautiful. I love that. I love all of these brand new quests that they added into this map, and all of the various pick up items, which you'll notice if they glow a yellow with, it's supposed to be a sparkle like from World of Warcraft, but I think it's like a fly animation. But either way, there's tons of items just laying around like in Skyrim that you could pick up off the floor, and I love that little detail. That was added actually throughout the last playthrough that I did, and I'm glad that it was expanded upon because there's tons of it everywhere. And you'll even notice as I'm fighting creatures out in the world, tons and tons of chests have loads of decorative items, healing items. There's just so much to pick up that eventually I do become encumbered and will have to make a chest later on in the Razor Hill town to just deposit all of my stuff until I can make my own home. But enough of that talking. I went up onto the ridge and I killed a few scorpions, including Sarkoth. Sarkoth is the medium scorpion that you saw there. I say medium because there are much larger scorpions in this game. Either way, I remember him being a lot harder last time because I fought him with a stone weapon, but when I was in the cave where the Imp King was, I had found an iron tiered axe weapon, which did a lot more damage than that stone sword I had, so I was able to kill Sarkoth much faster this time around, and it's definitely a good boost into the leveling of my adventures. But enough of that. I have pretty much conquered all of the Valley of Trials, and it was now to Durotar proper. Leaving the Valley of Trial, I look back and get one last glimpse at it before turning around and noticing a small camp. Now, this is not normally there in World of Warcraft, and I don't ever remember it being there in the last playthrough, so I went over to check it out. I did see a Lordaeron flag, but then I realized it is basically a quest hub for basically one of each of the factions to send you off to your first town. So the Alliance would probably send them off to the Kultiris area nearby. I don't know where the Brigands would be sent to, but the Horde is sent to Razor Hill, and by doing that quest and turning it in, you would be awarded with some cool iron tiered boots that look like grunt boots. Now, you don't see that right off the bat. That one is just to take the trade report from him and head to Razor Hill. Now, a lot of the quests that you'll find, some of them will be take this to person, while other quests you find will be turn in item for reward. And some of these items you turn in from rewards, you will get from other quest givers. So if you went to Razor Hill first and saw that quest, he would ask you for the trade report, which you get from this guy here. Now, a lot of the quest text is written in a way that you are able to figure it out. As one time I picked up a couple of quests and I could not remember where one of them went. I simply opened it up to read the item as if it was a book item, and it told me where to go. So that was a plus because there are no quest logs in this game. You'll also see some other quests later on. One of them involves killing a certain character everybody who's played an orc or a troll would know. Now, I did loot the chest on the inside of there. Remember how I said there's just chests everywhere and they have tons of great items in them, but this is where I was starting to become encumbered. So I needed to make a tent or some sort of just small camp where I could put down a couple of chests down and start offloading everything that I've been looting, because there's no way I'm going to be making it all through Durotar with this encumbrance. I dropped what I could for the moment and started making my way to Razor Hill to turn in the quest. Normally I head to Sen'jin first, but I decided to actually just go to Razor Hill. I killed a couple of wild dogs and some scorpions on the way, as well as stopping to do some of the journey steps to get a boost in my progression. Eventually, I made my way to Razor Hill, and the first thing I did besides looking around to see if there was anything new was to set up a temporary camp. Luckily, with all the looting of chests that I had been doing, I had tons of decorational items already on hand, and from doing the journey steps, I had basically plenty of bedrolls to put down. So I put down a tent, I put down a bedroll, a small survival camp, as well as a single chest in order to offload all of my stuff. It filled up pretty quick, and eventually I did have to make a second chest, which you probably won't see here, you'll probably see later on. But regardless, I then afterward went to explore the town. I found tons of new merchants, which is actually something Uruk added as I made my last season, where I gave the criticism that I felt like there was not enough merchants anywhere. So he responded in my video that he would do that and added plenty of merchants, and now I see them everywhere, and I like this. It makes the world feel more lively that I can go into a town or a city and purchase different things. Unfortunately, he is no longer with us, so he cannot hear my praise. I only hope he is hearing it from wherever he is now. Anyway, I find the quest giver and I turn in the trade report, which awards me with a satchel of goods, 3 silver, and the iron boots that basically look like grunt boots. Finally, I get my first piece of armor. I put them on and I look awesome. Eventually, I made my way to Senjin, where I wanted to be in the first place because I really like Senjin, and I ransacked the place just like I did Razor Hill and all of the other camps that I had been to. I found tons of little shiny items all around that I picked up, except for one that was kind of stuck under a table so I couldn't grab it. But either way, I went into the inn where I found my next quest, to kill Zalazane. This is the one that I mentioned before. By killing this boss, which is on the Echo Islands, just like in the normal game, he will drop this item that you can turn into the quest. Now, before I went there, I looked around Senjin a little bit more to see if I can find anything that I like. But after that, I swam over to the Echo Islands. Now, unfortunately, the water texture is still broken. That makes you look like you're underwater even though you are not. This is purely a Kalimdor Exiles like bug, and it still hasn't been fixed even though it's been 2 years since the last time I played it. But as I arrived on the island, I get ganked by a couple of crocodiles. No issue, I've got my trusty iron axe and bone shield, and my shiny new iron boots. Though as I approached the troll camps, the voodoo trolls were not really pleased with me being there and attacked on the spot. Now, from me fighting them with the little armor that I have on me, it seems that they are equivalent to the Dafari if you are familiar with the Conan Exiles enemies. Dafari are basically tier 0 enemies. They are not pushovers, they are fairly easy in all things considered. So I take my time with them, I pull them back as needed, and try only killing a few at a time. It did get a bit dicey in some areas, but by pulling back using potions and bandages, I was able to kill pretty much all of them without issue. Now, some of them were bugged in some places, like you could see some of them with tan skin. You will see some orcs with tan skin as well instead of the green skin they are supposed to have. I do know the reason of why this is happening. I don't fix it for like another episode or 2, so you're gonna have to bear with me on that. But the reasoning it is happening is because the mod itself that, you know, has the Kalimdor Exiles map has to be at the bottom of the mods list. I remember this was an issue the last time I played it as well, and I completely forgot about it until recently, but it is fixed. You just might not see it for the next couple of episodes, as I said. But either way, I cleave my way through all of these voodoo trolls, and I did notice that some of the death animations are a lot more brutal than I remember. It may have been with the Age of War update that Conan recently had, but I'm actually not too sure on that. I just know that some of these death animations look and feel a lot different, more brutal and bloodier than I remember. Either way, I love it. It's great just seeing the defeated enemy on the ground and then just hacking your axe at them as blood splurts everywhere and their head goes flying or their arms go flying. It's really cool. But also, if you notice, a lot of these trolls not only have Conan Exiles armor, but they have imported World of Warcraft armor, like this shaman or something, I don't know how to speak German, here that you see that has the, I believe that's a druid shoulder piece, the bears, it's from Zulaman. Either way, it's really cool, and there are tons of imported armor and weapon models. You'll also see eventually some NPC models that have been imported and mapped to various Conan Exiles creatures as well, but you won't see those until later on. I believe the only one in Durotar that you will see are actually the Thunder Lizards, which are imported in, but they are mapped over the skeleton animation of the small, baby dragons of Conan Exiles. Either way, I make my way through the camp until eventually I find Zalazane. Now, Zalazane is a named enemy, which means he is considered a tier 4 among his kind. Tier 4 or named individuals are basically mini-bosses without actually being mini-bosses, and they hurt a lot. Zalazane has steel and even hardened steel weapons on him, so he is going to be doing a ton more damage, especially with his daggers, which he can hit a lot faster and cause bleeding damage. Fighting him was an absolute nightmare, including fighting all of his little minions. I tried taking out the minions, and eventually I did so I could fight him one-on-one, but in combination with the lack of stamina, lack of health, and the fact that he hit really hard, the bleeding damage caused me to go down and I failed. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to fight Zalazane anytime soon, but that's going to be the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this adventure on part 1. Part 2, I'm going to continue on in Durotar and move into the Barrens. And eventually, I will go back and fight Zalazane, as well as all of the other areas that I've not yet completed. So stay tuned, like this video, subscribe if you want to see more Kalimdor Exiles, and I will see you next time.